Hey everyone, BlueLizardJello here, and it's time for another episode of Everything Possible Before a Boss here in Dark Souls 2, and today we're exploring the gutter. Now the gutter for a lot of players brought back memories, not so fond memories, of Blighttown from Dark Souls 1, and it does bear some similarities. However, the gutter is one of my favorite places in Dark Souls 2. I think it's very atmospheric. I think that the lighting when you're using the torch is absolutely phenomenal. Not to mention, there's actually a lot of good stuff that's hidden in this area that is very easy to miss because there are so many branching paths. There's multiple ways of getting through this area. If you watch any speedrunning, you can see you can get through the gutter in a matter of, 90 seconds. And you miss a lot of the really cool stuff that the developer has actually hidden in here. So we're going to take our time. I am not the greatest at maneuvering the gutter, but I'm going to do my best to make sure I provide some of the most efficient routes in order to get all the items. We will get all the items. I will tell you that I do die a few times. I do get turned around a few times. Hopefully it's not too painful to watch. So right away we're going to make this jump. It's not a very difficult one, as long as you don't get a baby jump. We'll take out these guys. Now these dreglings, especially the torch-bearing ones, have a very good drop rate of torches. So if they're carrying a torch and you're running low on torches, farm these guys, you should be all set. It seems to be about 50%, but that is purely anecdotal. I haven't actually done any testing. But I like to run through this area with a torch because it just looks so much better, not to mention it's easier to find your way around. So up here, I am climbing this ladder just to show you, after I light this sconce, this is the second of the forgotten doors that we've run into. So the forgotten doors are opened with the forgotten key, and behind that one is a very cool set of armor that a lot of you are going to recognize immediately as Havel's armor from Dark Souls 1. We will be picking that up, but in order to do so, we do have to make our way to Black Gulch and kill the two giants that are hidden in one of the caves below the main area. So we will return once we've gotten that key. So just taking a look around. Again, I am not super familiar, so I do a little bit of exploring as opposed to just strictly item finding. But I do get there eventually. Now, coming up here, well, we have one of the flesh dogs, is that what they're called? Rotten dogs? I don't know. But in this jar, Dark Pyromancy Flame and Rotten Pine Resin ×3. So let me tell you a little bit about the Dark Pyromancy Flame. It's the only flame that you can get without killing a boss. The only other flame in the game is the normal version, which you get after you kill the Flexile Sentry in No Man's Warp. This is a very interesting item because it scales with your hollowing. There's been a lot of theories out there. The one that most people seem to have clung on to at this point is it's actually not the hollowing as much as it is your max HP, or the percentage of your max HP that you currently have. What that means is, because that has a very interesting connotation, currently, if I die a whole bunch of times, or if I get cursed a bunch of times, I will go down to 50% of my max HP. However, if I sin a lot by invading other players or killing NPCs, my max HP gets even lower. I mean, you're talking just a sliver of HP remaining. And apparently the scaling continues. The prisoner's gloves, you can get various prisoner's armor set from these dreglings, but the scaling continues. So even though you've gone past the 50% mark, apparently the scaling keeps going and gets very, very powerful. Now, I haven't tested this. I hope to. I'm not very good at PvP, so getting all that sin's going to be a bit difficult, but the Dark Pyro Flame at 50% HP is already outscaling the normal Pyro Flame at the same upgrade level. Imagine bringing that down to, another 3 or 4 times beyond that. So very, very high potential for a lot of damage output with that flame. Okay, Soul of a Nameless Soldier. Light this sconce, and we will proceed. It's no secret, these statues will spit poison. It's best to deal with the ones that are going to impede your progress. There are a few that if you don't kill them, there's a very high likelihood of you not making some pretty important jumps. So I typically break almost all of them that I see just to make this run just a little bit easier. So you see me going carefully and killing everything. Later on, after I've died once or twice, I decided that killing these is really not worth it. The drops are very common. They're not anything too specific or too important that we would need for any sort of build later on. So eventually I will stop killing all these. And there are some runs later that I will be speeding up as well, just to make it so you don't have to spend as much time watching me corpse run over and over, or backtrack for that matter. But you can see the lighting is just so beautiful in this area, and once you have all the sconces lit up, this area looks really neat. Some really good screenshots could be pulled out of here. Another torch Dregling. Unfortunately, I don't believe this one does drop his torch for me. But that would still hold true to my about 50% drop rate for them. At least with the Traveling Merchant hat. Oh, you know what? I just noticed that he did drop it. And it just fell through the slats in the floor. I did not notice that when I played it. Didn't notice it when I was going back through to check item locations. I'm only noticing it now. So I got poisoned. We talked earlier in the last episode about poison moss and just how useful it can be. It's never a bad idea to have some on your hotbar. You just never know. Especially in PvP, there's a lot of people out there who spam poison. If you try to heal up, they're probably going to take advantage of that, but it's better than dying a very quick, poisonous death. Like this sconce is a wooden treasure chest behind, and inside we're going to find a trio of black firebombs. It's really interesting with the item placement in the Souls games. A lot of times you will find items that are useful for enemies or bosses coming up, and it just so happens that the Rotten, who is the boss of Black Gulch after the Gutter, he's actually susceptible to fire. He's vulnerable to fire. And they give you black firebombs in a few different areas, and they give you the Pyromancy flame, the Dark Pyro Flame. They don't give you any Pyromancies. Or do they? We'll talk about that in a little bit, right towards the end of this episode, or it might even be the beginning of the next episode, so you'll just have to wait. Okay, little ledge right here you can drop down to, and a Dregling you can just plunge attack. This area is also really good because there are some good upgrade materials. For example, this one, a Titanite Chunk. Like this sconce, we're gonna loop back around because we can't get up from the way we came, so we have to find a different alternative. Although this Dobby? I think it's a dog. This dog blocked my progress, so I'm just gonna bait him out and run past him. To my knowledge, these dogs don't drop anything of any value whatsoever, if they drop anything at all. So I choose to ignore them when I can. Hop down inside this house. And here we go, the Tattered set. So the Tattered set is kind of a throwback to Dark Souls 1. This would be the standard Pyromancy gear. Now there's no Pyromancy class in Dark Souls 2, but you can pick up the old Pyromancy set. Just a bunch of tattered robes, but it looks kind of cool if you want to go for that dingy look. And then we have the Ring of the Evil Eye, which we really, at this point, could not care less about because we already have the Ring of Evil Eye +1. That, interestingly enough, we got on our way in here. So, I'm not really sure about the item placement there. It seems to be pretty backwards. But I'm not a game developer. I'm just a player. Now we are going to come back to this area in the next episode because there's a secret. It's not an item, but I didn't know this until very recently. Did you know? Oh, we got the Bandit Greataxe. Oh, Soul of a Proud Knight. I missed that. Sorry about that. The Bandit Greataxe is coming up. Right here. There it is. So, looking for a nice heavy weapon. There you go. Nothing too special about it. But we're going to be coming back to this area because there's a zip line. There's actually a zip line in the gutter. I didn't know this until recently. It'll go from this tower, the top of this tower, all the way back to almost the very beginning of the level. which I thought was a very cool mechanic in the level design. I'm disappointed that I missed it before, but we will use it in this playthrough. It'll just be the next episode. Very interesting death coming up, by the way. I don't really know what happened. The physics really just kind of really went wonky, but you will see that in a moment. Got a pair of flame butterflies. Again, I mentioned it before, but going to be very important once we have visited Dark Diver Gondal, I believe his name is, 3 times, and we can actually access the abyss, because in order to light the torches down there, and here's the death. So I get stuck in between these 2 slats, and I can't move. I'm using the controls. I roll, and suddenly I fall to my death. I have not seen too many glitches in Dark Souls 2. However, that was a pretty noticeable one. But anyway, you do need the flame butterflies in order to light the torches, the bonfires, inside of the Abyss dungeons in order to advance yourselves in that covenant. Speed things up. Let's get back, grab my souls, and we will move on. Just a few items left to get in this episode, and then we will conclude the gutter and head our way into Dark Gulch in the next one. Alright, I have my souls, I have retrieved them, so let's go ahead and push on. Oh, wait a minute, that's right, no. The hitboxes on those dogs are some of the craziest hitboxes I've seen in this game so far. It really boggles the mind. Okay, now let's continue. Have the torch strangling, and that time no drop. Checking out the surroundings here, and we will be visiting that area next time. There's also an NPC invasion that happens right around there. Melinda the Butcher, kind of a nice throwback to Dark Souls 1 yet again, but we will be taking a look at that next time. Kill this exploding Dregling. Prisoner, I think, is actually what it's called. Okay, drop down, and we do have the dog, who is fairly oblivious or stuck, so you can go in here and pick up a pair of firebombs again. Now, this area. So, this is one of the areas that I was talking about earlier, where if you don't destroy the statues before making a jump, it can be devastating. Those statues will fire simultaneously as you try to jump, probably stop you in midair, and you will fall to your death. So, always take out at least the one laying down as well as the 2 on the left. Makes it a lot safer. I think I do the 3. Yeah, I do. But it's a lot safer this way. And then you can take the rest out with impunity. Or you can try to knock their shield away. I just love the level design of the gutter. It's so open, yet it's so branching that it really warrants 2 or 3 loops through in order to visit all the areas. But it's a very concise area. It's still a very small map. It's just they've managed to pack a lot into this tiny area. So we're going into the room with multiple ladders. That is the way to advance yourself in the level in order to make your way towards Black Gulch. We are not going to go down the ladders just yet because we do have a few more items topside to get. And here I am completely forgetting which wall to break. There it is. So multiple different paths that you can take, but knock these over, get yourselves a few Dung Pies. Really good for getting poison build up pretty quickly, even on bosses. Although, a little bit later, we will actually have a much better way of getting poison buildup on enemies as well as bosses in the form of a hex called Dark Fog. Making our way through, just exploring, knocking over some statues, just generally making the Rotten very angry with us. But we will go out the fog gate and see what there is to see, because there is one little area off to the side. There's a cave that has some poison horn beetles, which look like mushrooms to me. I'm not sure how they got the name. As well as a giant ant queen who produces a noxious gas that I'll tell you about in a moment. First, in these pots, knock them over and you can find yourself 20 poison arrows. If I can get to them. And because I know what comes up next, I'll go ahead and kind of tell you a little bit about the Ant Queen. You don't have to kill her. In fact, the gas that she's putting out, while it does degrade your equipment very slowly, it actually also cures poison. So if you are poisoned by these horn beetles, all you need to do is stand in that cloud and you'll be fine. But if you decide to run to the Ant Queen and get killed by the poison horn beetles, that is a different story altogether. So real quick before we wrap up, the reason I said you might be able to get a Pyromancy is there are claims out there that those horn beetles have a chance of dropping the Firestorm Pyromancy, which is excellent, and we are going to try to farm to see if we can confirm that or deny it. Anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this episode. I will see you next time, and we will wrap up the gutter.